On the rugged island backwater of Okinawa, many believed that the superior will of Japanese soldiers, sailors, and airmen would triumph over American materialism and save Japan.
Welcome to Peak 22.
And today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 bloodiest battles in American history.
Mount Suribachi crowned a barren island of little value, Iwo Jima. But in 1945, two armies wanted badly.
For this list, we're ranking the costliest battles in terms of casualties for American military forces. We'll be focusing on specific skirmishes rather than overarching campaigns, such as the Meuse-Argonne offensive from World War I. Do you know of any battles we missed? Let us know in the comments. Number 10. D-Day, Normandy.
Move fast and clear those murder holes!
Want to see plenty of beats between men. 5 men, it's a juicy opportunity. 1 man's a waste of ammo.
D-Day, aka the Battle of Normandy, was the first battle of Operation Overlord, the military campaign that sent Allied forces into German-occupied territory during World War II. The American sector was tasked, alongside its allies, with landing on Utah and Omaha Beach during the assault. Both battles were won by the Allies, but the American forces did not escape this day without severe casualties and deaths. U.S. losses totaled somewhere between 45 and 5,500, with the Omaha Beach battalions winning footholds of territory, while Utah Beach forces secured a beachhead at Cherbourg, although facilities located on the latter were heavily damaged by the German military and made non-operational until early autumn. Number 9. The Battle of the Pusan Perimeter.
By August 1950, the U.S. 8th Army had its back against a wall. It had been pushed to within 65 miles of Pusan and Korea's southern shore. The last real natural barrier before Pusan was the Naktung River. A strong stand there would be crucial.
The Korean War may be colloquially known as the Forgotten War, but we can rest assured knowing that nobody involved with the Battle of the Pusan Perimeter would forget these days for the rest of their lives.
In 6 short weeks, these men had gone from relaxing peacetime duties to the carnage of the front lines. Thousands had nervous breakdowns.
This is because there were over 4,000 American deaths during this conflict, combined with 12,000 injured, plus more that were missing and captured. Pusan was one of the first major battles of the war, and the United Nations Command, including American troops, would successfully defend the relentless push of the Korean People's Army.
The river line was eventually restored, and the North Koreans fell back to lick their wounds. The red tide had been halted for the first time.
Although the latter would gain significant ground on this day, they would never again see this much success, as UN forces continued to hold them at bay. Number 8. The Battle of St. Mihiel.
St. Mihiel was a natural fortress, and the Germans had spent years building 5 defense lines with enormous belts of barbed wire, machine gun nests, and concrete dugouts. It was a really important spot as well.
This combined military effort from French and American forces, no matter how you look at it, was a bloody and costly affair during the First World War. The United States Army staged their first major offensive of the Great War at St. Mihiel, and significantly impressed their French and British counterparts, primarily thanks to artillery success gained against a retreating German army.
This was their so-called baptism of fire, but the attack could not have gone off more beautifully.
Still, over 4,500 Allies were killed in battle, with another 2,500 wounded, as wet weather led to muddy, miserable conditions, making the St. Mihiel offensive a dreary and physically exhausting affair for all involved.
The attackers had a 3-to-1 advantage in infantry, at least 5-to-1 in artillery, and over 7-to-1 in aircraft.
Number 7. The Battle of Anzio.
Mid-January 1944. The build-up for a landing at Anzio was underway. This would be an amphibious end run, which would put a force on the beach to the enemy's rear, and much too close to Rome for his comfort.
Although historians quantify the Battle of Anzio as one part of the overarching Italian campaign of World War II, Its length almost certainly feeds into how devastating it was for American forces stationed in this part of the world. Operation Shingle was America's introduction to the Battle of Anzio, an amphibious assault that successfully utilized the element of surprise in achieving their initial objective of position with relative ease.
Yanks of the American Fifth Army sees a wide beachhead. Swarming ashore in force, they take the German high command completely unaware.
Still, the totality of Anzio was costly for the United States, with 7,000 reported as dead by the battle's end.
It was one of my duties as a medical officer to keep a listing of casualties for Corps headquarters. By the end of January, we had taken a total of 3,000 casualties.
What's even more troubling is the massive amounts of missing soldiers from the Battle of Anzio, with that number reaching an astonishing 36,000. Number 6. The Battle of Iwo Jima.
Inside the mountain is a maze of tunnels and...
Number 5. The Battle of Côte d'Azur. The Battle of Côte d'Azur refers to the initial landing of Allied forces upon the beaches of southern France during World War II.
The war will now move into the resort towns of southern France, the French Riviera.
It served as the opening salvo to Operation Dragoon, an offensive that, at first, was intended to occur alongside the more famous June invasion of Normandy, but was ultimately delayed until August.
The landing beaches and their approaches are chartered to perfection, and the deployment of enemy troops is no secret. The Maquis, the French resistance forces, report every movement.
The United States and its allies were successful in capturing and holding important ports in the region, although over 7,000 soldiers died by the end of the conflict.
The shattered units of the German army limped back to their homeland in retreat.
A further 10,000 casualties were also on the books at Côte d'Azur, making this a costly success. Number 4. The Battle of Luzon.
This was the invasion of Luzon, as Lingayen Gulf resounded to the bark of naval guns, laying down a preliminary bombardment.
The Second World War was marching towards an end by the time American and Filipino forces combined military strengths to free the island of Luzon in 1945.
The landing craft streak ashore to land almost unopposed. Among the men of General Kruger's 6th Army were many who knew well every ridge and stream of Luzon's strategic battleground.
The Filipino island had been occupied by Japanese forces, but the latter had seen their presence become severely compromised, to the point where only a comparatively small resistance was intact to defend against the combined allies. This decisive victory was not without cost, as the Battle of Luzon was one of the deadliest from this late period of the war. Over 8,000 Americans were killed, while Japan lost over 217,000 men to disease and starvation. Meanwhile, Filipino civilians were massacred by the thousands by Japanese troops during the concurrent Battle of Manila. Number 3. The Battle of Okinawa.
Directly overhead, squadrons of dive bombers, our dive bombers, fly toward the island.
Another late entry into the battle cycle of World War II was the Battle of Okinawa, also known by the codename Operation Iceberg. The United States Army and Navy successfully took Okinawa from the Imperial Japanese Army, but the loss of life here during the conflict was nothing if not historic.
We debarked from our ships, we landed on Okinawa, and we had no idea of what kind of resistance we will encounter.
Between 14 and 20,000 Americans died, with 12,000 reportedly killed in action. The fighting was notably fierce on both sides, with Japanese kamikaze attacks and pummeling Allied artillery fire making the Battle of Okinawa a nightmare for everyone on the ground.
Our progress was not by miles and not by hundreds of yards, but practically by inches, because the resistance was very strong.
Number 2. The Battle of the Bulge.
I can only report what I've learned. The German soldier facing us is still an undefeated enemy. He can still fight. His leaders know that. As long as he can fight, they'll attack.
Germany pushed its forces to the Western Front during the winter of 1945 in an attempt to divide, surround, and conquer the Allied forces stationed in Belgium and Luxembourg.
With every man for himself, we were inadequately clothed. We didn't have rubber overshoes. We didn't have overcoats. We didn't have gloves. We didn't have scarves.
This was initially successful thanks to a surprise attack early on in the conflict. But America and her allies eventually staved off the German advance, forcing the latter to retreat back to their defensive line. Still, over 19,000 Americans were killed during the vicious fighting, and a further 89,000 casualties. This made the Battle of the Bulge infamous as the bloodiest battle U.S. forces ever fought during World War II. and one of the deadliest in the country's history.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications.
Number 1. The Battle of Gettysburg. This multi-day battle was one of the most studied and well-known of the American Civil War.